to the Dream and Thrive podcast. Today, I have with me the wonderful Raphaela Brown. Raphaela and I met at a wonderful event in Atlanta, Georgia. How many years ago has it been now, Raphaela?
Oh my gosh, that was November 2014. So it's been
2014.
6 years.
Wow. Yeah, it was Valerie Burton's program where we were going through a coaching program. It was like an intensive, and it was a weekend. And Raphael and I were actually put together
Mhm.
in the afternoon session, right?
Yes.
And we just bonded, and we have stayed in touch and supported each other and been accountability partners ever since. I live in Houston, she lives in Philly, and we have just been like sisters, really helping each other on this journey to growing our businesses and growing our brands. And I really adore her and the work that she's doing. So I really wanted to introduce all of everyone listening in the world right now to this podcast, to the work that she's doing. And I want to tell you a little bit about what she's doing right now, and then we'll have a really good conversation around her work. So let me give you a proper introduction. Raphaela Brown is a certified coach helping women in leadership. That primarily is CEOs, founders, directors who feel overwhelmed and stretched thin, regaining more time for themselves, more energy, and ultimately peace of mind. Although known as a catalyst coach for CEO women, Raphael's ability to get to the root of the problem and come up with creative strategies makes her a secret weapon for growth and change for her clients. Her personal story is being engulfed in nonstop working projects, meetings, having more of the work spilling into their home life daily, which affects how she showed up as a parent and as she herself is in her work life. So this led her to understand that if you allow the priorities of everything and everyone else to run your life, you will feel stagnated, miserable, and everything else around you is going to suffer. So
Mhm.
Raphaela takes that beautiful story, or that, should I say, complicated story from her own life and really applies it to her coaching. And her story is really what propelled her to do the work that she's so passionate about doing today. In addition, she is the lead coaching consultant for Raphaela Brown Coaching and Consulting, where she provides effective services through individual and group coaching, doing this along a lot of the coursework that she's launching for busy entrepreneurial women, or busy women, I should say, not just entrepreneurial women. So
Yes.
I want to really introduce you to the Dream and Thrive community, Raphaela. So glad that you're on the podcast today. Yay!
Hello, everyone.
Yes. When I thought about starting the podcast, it was a no-brainer that you were going to be on here because I really love everything that you've done with your career, and how you've transitioned into working with this specific type of audience that you work with, which is corporate high performing women, and really finding a need that they have to really work with coaching. So I wanted you to tell me a little bit more about, you mentioned in your bio that you were really struggling with the balance, but tell me a little bit more about why you really identified that there was this need for you to really seek out coaching. What brought you to the Valerie Burton that weekend?
Oh wow. So, I mean, just based off of my backstory, um, I knew that there wasn't just only me, who was suffering from that. And when you're in it, you really feel like, am I going crazy? Am I the only one who's going through this, right? And so I knew from there that I really wanted to venture out and begin helping all women who were going through this and actually suffering in silence, right?
Right.
We're just going through it and grudging and sludging through it. And I wanted to be there to be a voice and a support for them. And what really propelled me was actually I've always been coaching, even
Wow.
before I ventured out into my own business. And that came from my team, from my past teams who I worked with. They're the ones who pointed it out. And so I said, well, if I'm going to be a coach, let me learn how to do this and do this well while it comes naturally. I definitely don't want to play with people's lives. So I wanted to have the skills and the tools, the techniques, along with my natural abilities to do this.
I love that because so many times you see people, they have a little bit of experience with helping themselves and they like, oh, I'm a coach now, but you really made sure that you had the expertise and the experience behind you before you stepped out and really tried to help people because you understand how important that is. So I
Yeah.
love that. Um, so Raphaela, tell me a little bit about the work that you're doing today.
Yes. So today, and I work with women in corporate, executives, high level women who are struggling, with balance. They are literally carrying a heavy load, trying to do it all, trying to make it look good, wearing that superwoman cape, and really they're falling apart on the inside. And
Wow.
so where I come in at is to pretty much like, hey, you have permission to create a life that allows for the full totality of who you are, right? You're not just an executive, a director, manager, whatever it is, but you're also a mother, a wife. You're also who you are, right? With your own individual needs and wants. And so let's get back to the values there that are important. So you're not being led by, you know, what's going on at work and what you got to get done and what everybody else is saying to do, but you're really led by what brings you joy, what brings fulfillment to your life.
How does that show up for them? Is it showing up in them burning out? Do you see them suffering with self-esteem issues for lack of confidence? Is there a prevailing theme that you see with those women when they realize that they're not doing a great job of balancing it all?
Yes, it's definitely the feeling of being overwhelmed, not feeling like themselves. If they're not burned out, they're on their way to burnout. A lot of saying yes to everything, no real boundaries. And and there's a lot going on within the mindset, right? So just feeling like overly critical of yourself, feeling like you're not enough, you need to do more, those types of things are showing up for them.
Right. And what do you find are some of the key things that contribute to them saying yes to everything? Is it because they feel as a woman in that position, if they say no, that they will not be perceived as strong? Why do you feel that women are saying yes to everything? I mean, because that's a prevailing theme I've seen also in some of the things that I've done.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's pretty much all of that. So, if you're in the workplace and definitely in a male dominated one, you don't want to look like you can't handle it, right? You don't want to come off as weak. You want to look like you can carry your weight within the work. And so they continue to say yes and take it on. Also, a lot of times they don't know how to communicate effectively around that. So not knowing like, look, you have options, you might not necessarily agree with that, but there's another way out to get to where you're trying to go or what you need. So really working on um, being assertive and getting strategies to communicate effectively. um, but yeah, that's the gist.
It's so funny, we're still having these conversations. So women really wanting to rise in the ranks and be in leadership positions, but the fact that we're still struggling with being able to communicate that, we need to have these boundaries. Because I remember working in, and I wasn't in like a high level leadership position, but I'm definitely was leading a team. And I remember that everybody on my team were guys because I work in a lot of the tech sector, and they're scheduling these meetings super early when I would probably need to be home to get my boys off to school. And because most of them probably had somebody else to take care of that, it was like a no big deal. Oh,
Right.
can everybody come at 8? And I'm like, no, I can't come at 8. You know, like 8 is not a good time for me. But because I was the only one, I felt like my voice was weakened and nobody was there to support that, Franca can't come, so maybe we should move it to 9, because it's like, oh, well, we can have the meeting without you, or you can just catch up later. So
Mhm.
you have this feeling like you have to try to say yes, even though you know that it's not going to work for your life, and you have to jump through hoops to accommodate all of the, everything that it's in your life. And that adds stress, because now you're not there for your children.
Yes.
You're at a meeting when you really want to be home, making sure that the boys get off to school and they have what they need. So you got to hire maybe a nanny or somebody to come and sit with the boy. It's just a lot. And
It,
I'm like, when is it going to come to a time where people are going to say, you know what, we get it. Frank is a vital part of this team, or Susie or whoever. And we are going to start the meeting at a time when everyone can show up. Like that would have been so easy to say, but that was, and so I was like, okay, well, I'm just not gonna be there.
right, right.
I'm just gonna miss that meeting. The choice that I made was, I'm just not gonna be there. And I'll catch up later.
Right. And that was a valid choice, right?
Yeah.
You drew a line in the sand around your values, and your
Yeah.
values was being a mother who was present for her sons. And it was
Right.
important for you to be there to get your sons to school. And
Yes.
so, with you being able to say that effectively to them, like, well, if you're unable to change it, I'm unable to be there. Yeah,
Right.
I'll catch the notes later. And sometimes women don't even say that because they feel like they don't want to come off as a you know what, you know.
But we are mothers, right? We're mothers, and we are, trying to have successful careers. But, we don't, especially me, I am a single mom. I'm a widowed mom, so I don't have a spouse that I can call and say, come and watch the kids. I'm it. And so you're right. I made a choice, and I live with the consequences of that choice, potentially maybe affecting my ability to, but it actually did not affect me at all in this particular company that I made that choice. I still got my work done. And if I felt like someone needed to be in that meeting, I would ask one of my teammates, look, I can't be at that meeting. Can you go in my place?
There you
And,
go.
I say, is this something that someone needs to attend that I can't come to? And I'll ask my teammates, could one of you attend in my place, because I'm not going to be able to be there. So I think you have to use your resources as well, right?
You go. There you go.
Yeah.
Just being aware that you're not like locked into what they say you have to do totally. There's always options, and you use the key word, your resources, who do you have in your corner? What supports are around you? Who's on your team? What can you utilize to help you still get the job done effectively without sacrificing, who you are, your energy, your family all the time?
Yes. And we kind of segued really nicely into strategies that you give, the women that you coach. But, let's talk about some of the we talked about, kind of the problem that
Mhm.
women are dealing with. Did we define the problem, do you think, well enough? Are there other aspects of it that we miss before we start talking about those strategies?
Uh, no, those are the main things.
Those are the main
So
things. Okay.
communication, yeah, mindset, those things.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about some of the things that we talked about setting boundaries, of course. We talked about utilizing your resources. Are there other strategies that women should be actually utilizing that would help them if they're in this situation?
What's really helpful when women come to me is first definitely gaining clarity, right? You
Okay.
have to understand, what's underneath the surface, right? So you're coming and you're saying, oh, I'm so exhausted, I'm burnt out, I'm tired, I got to do all of this. But what's at the core of that, right? And that's where you find out that you're just operating out of you're not in integrity with what you want to do with your life, right? And so just being able to get to the core of your values is the first thing. And then
Great.
you find, then they'll see like, yeah, you know what? I literally wake up in the morning and I'm checking emails. I'm already on the hamster wheel
Yes.
before I get to the office. And so creating space in your day is important. You literally can run the day. What they say,
Yeah.
let the day run you.
Yes.
So that's another thing that's super, super important. The other thing that's important, and it's for long-term success, is mindset.
Mm.
There's no way around it. How
Yeah.
you think about a situation um, is going to help you really set you set you forth. Um, and so
Set you up for success. Yeah.
definitely set you up for success. And so what we do is take time to see like what are some of those critical thoughts that you're having? What are some of those oppressive, worrisome thoughts that are keeping you stuck in doing the same things over and over, which is getting you in a mental rut? So those are key things that I look at.
So when you work with mindset, are you also working on communication? Are you working on languaging, how they language things? And because I know for me, how I language things and how I talk to myself really affects how I show up in the things that I do. So it's really important for me to language things in a certain way and make sure that it's a positive way and that it's it's empowering in terms of the words that I use to refer to myself, because how you speak to yourself is probably the most important conversation you're going to have every day, right?
Exactly. And when you brought that up, it made me think about self-compassion. You
Yeah.
know, we're so hard on ourselves as women,
Really.
so hard. And so that's another component, being able to extend some grace to yourself. You you can't do it all. Um,
Yeah.
it's okay. It really is okay.
But Raphaela, don't you think we get mixed messages about that as women? Because, when you think about, I have a wonderful client and she tells me all the time that there's I have food noise, so food noise is where you have this competing noise, you want to eat healthy, but you also have this thing where, you want to have a normal life and not feel like you're constantly thinking about food and what you're going to eat next. And, so I love that concept, but I think that we have noise as women in terms of what we can achieve and what success looks like, and that we can have it all. I've heard that some people say, oh, you can have it all, and then some people say that you can have it all, just not all at the same time. And then other people, so there's a lot of that, kind of competing messaging towards women. And then when women are successful, really successful, or they're CEOs of big companies, Fortune 500, Fortune 100 companies, they're like, well, so-and-so, you'll look and see if she's even still married, or if you'll look and see if she has kids, you'll look and see what her personal life kind of looks like, to kind of almost validate that, oh yeah, she doesn't have a good marriage, or she doesn't have, any children, or she sacrificed something, because that must be what she had to do to get to that level. So I feel like there's like a mixed messaging around what success looks like. And, what is your recommendation on how women should define success?
Oh,
Yeah.
that is all the way up my alley. Success is and I want, as you were talking, I wanted to take a step back too, because having it all is based on your definition. So let me correct what I was saying. You can have it all based on what it is that you see as success.
Hold on just a second, Raphael. Okay. I want you to, okay, we have a bit of an echo. I want you to say that again. Sorry.
Which part? I'm sorry.
The last part about having it all.
Oh,
On
and
your definition.
oh, okay. And what I was saying is pretty much that women can have it all based on what they deem as success, right? They have to define what that looks like. And no two women's lives will look the same, right? Their idea of success will not be the same. So if you're saying success for me is being present for my children, um, also I can still climb the ladder, but being able to set boundaries, utilizing my resources and tools and supports around me to get that done. Success looks like I'm going on vacation twice a year. Whatever that is, you get to define it. Don't let the world define that for you.
Yes, I agree with. What I like too is not to shame women for the choices that they made for themselves. So
Mhm.
if you didn't want to have children, there's nothing wrong with that. If you decided that you wanted to be a mom, that's great. But I don't think I think what happens is there's like we're fighting over, the fact that, oh, she can do it because she didn't have kids. She chose not to have kids. That's fine. That was a choice that she made, and
Right.
we should not be fighting over, who's a more better example of being a woman who had kids or a woman who didn't have kids. I mean, everybody makes different choices in their lives. I think we have to support women in whatever choice she makes.
Right. And respect that. That was
And respect it, absolutely. Because I see that sometimes, and people say, oh, well, she didn't have kids, so that's why she could, yes, it's probably going to make it easier for her to get to, whatever destination she wants in her goals
Mhm.
quicker than if she maybe had kids, because you do have to sacrifice some things when you do have children.
You do.
But it depends on your level of support, right? Some women have kids and they don't miss a beat.
At all. And that's what I'm saying. Like women, so you don't get any extra credit for trying to do it alone, right?
Right,
No
right.
extra credit. Nobody's coming saying, oh, well, she did it by herself.
I
So
know, right?
the check plus mark, right? You don't get the extra credit for that. It's
Right.
literally building out your support, building out your team, your village, even
Yeah.
if you are a parent, a single parent.
Yeah.
It's important to learn that you not to do it by yourself.
Right. Yeah. And to ask for help when you need it. I
Yes.
love that. Let me make sure I'm checking all the questions. We talked about so much of what we.
I
Uh,
know.
yeah, I know. I love it though
I'm
because
looking at my notes. I'm like, I don't know where we're at. We're just flowing.
we're just flowing. I like that. So, Rafaela, what's so wonderful about our friendship is that we're both single moms. We've both been raising our kids by ourselves. You have a beautiful daughter, and I have two sons. And I think that bonded us, because we know that there's kind of a different rhythm to our lives because
Mhm.
of being without partners. How would you say that that has helped your work, and how you show up? Do you find that, single mothers gravitate to you, or do you find that you're just as comfortable helping married women, or has it defined your work at all?
And honestly, I'm comfortable helping the married woman who's trying to do it on their own. And sometimes within that situation, they might feel like,
They're
everything
single.
on them. Yeah.
Yeah.
And again, there comes being able to effectively communicate not only at work, but at home too. But no, I get the married women, the single women with no kids, and also, single mothers. And again, what I say to that is, and even for myself, even though I'm in this household day in and day out with my daughter, doing the work as a single parent, I don't see myself as that totally. And that's because I built out my village. There's
Yeah.
no way that I could do this on my own without, supportive family, my mom, uh,
Yeah.
friends who have turned into family, you know, um, she has a father figure in her life, who stepped in, And then also, outside of just that, for myself, how do I keep myself strong and strengthen myself? So, you know, I'm a life and leadership coach, but I can't be one without having one for myself,
Right.
right? I also need to be poured into as much as I'm pouring out. Nothing wrong with therapy if you need it, get that too. So
Yeah.
make sure you have that. If you're in business, business coach, whatever it is that you need, build that out for yourself.
Yeah. Because I mean, having that to be able to call on it when you need it is so valuable. I just feel like that is the thing that women have to make sure that they have is support because nobody does this by themselves.
Right.
And if you try to do it by yourself and you're struggling, that's why. Because we like it takes a village, to really be able to navigate that. I'm wondering if there was one piece of advice that you could give your younger self, what would that be? What would that advice be?
Oh my goodness. I love this question so much because it really takes me back. I literally go back to like teenage me or like young adult in my 20s me. And really I would tell myself like, girl, it's literally okay that you don't fit in. Like
Wow.
literally be yourself. People, it's your difference that makes you stand out. And then when you think about where we are today, right, these different
Yes.
personalities,
Yes.
B and whoever else who's so truly showing up like in all in who they are, and the people who love you will gravitate to you. You don't have to change for that.
That's the number one thing that I really like to ask whenever I'm doing any kind of branding or visual branding or coming up with marketing because I love to focus in on the differences. I in the early part of my career, I didn't know that that was a thing. I didn't understand it as well. And as I got more seasoned, I realized, okay, that's the power. The superpower is the difference, not how they blend in.
Yeah.
And it's helped me actually as a parent as well because my boys couldn't be more different, even though they're twins and being able to focus on their differences and saying, you know what, I don't want you to be like your brother. And, my thing is trying to get the rest of the world to understand that they're different, and that just because they're twins doesn't mean that they're anything alike.
Right.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. And that's something I had to learn too and embrace, it, like you said, it's your difference that what makes you stand out. Like, we always talk about strengths, what are you good at?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what's that thing that you got that makes you like, oh, like we need her on the team,
Yeah.
we need her support and help around that. That's that's key.
And sometimes, you get in your head and you start to say, you know what, I'm so quirky. I'm not, the average girl. I mean, I remember when I went natural and I started wearing my own natural hair, my some of my family was like, "What are you doing? You need a relaxer.
Yes.
Your hair is not, and I'm like, "Yeah, but this is me. This is my natural curly weird hair and I love it." And now all of them are natural. I
Right.
brought them all over to embracing their hair, but I was doing it at a time when a lot of people weren't wearing their natural hair. It was like before the whole craze hit. And I just decided that I wasn't, because of being a mother, I couldn't go to the salon as much. And I was like, you know what? I need this to be easier, so I'm going to have to just go with my natural hair. And I just loved that I embraced it early and then it became a thing
Right.
that, then I could find products and then it became easier to be able to have my natural hair. And then people started, doing it everywhere. So it's just wonderful that you can embrace where you are on your journey and not push against it so much and just be your quirky, unusual self.
Right. And I want to touch on that because within coaching, that's what I help women with. And it made me think of a past client who was an attorney for a Fortune 500 company. And so she was a negotiator, and she's in the room with all men, all
Yeah.
white men. And there's a lot of loud talking over each other, kind of like the debate. A lot of
Yeah.
that. And she came to me and she was like, they're saying I'm too quiet and I need to get up in there and be loud and stuff. And she's like, that's just not me. And through our time together, I was like, well, here's your strengths and here's what makes you stand out. She's thoughtful, she's intentional, she's solution oriented. And I said, that's what you bring in the room. That's what you bring to the table. And so when they're doing all this, you can cut in and say, listen, this is what I'm hearing. And
Yeah.
then lay that out. I said, that's what's going to calm the room. That's what's going to perk their ears up for the other side to hear you. And so, with her knowing that, she came in more confidently, like, okay, here's my secret weapon.
I love it. So once you focus in on your strengths, you really help people to have confidence around how to stand and operate in those strengths, because even not just as the career expertise she has, but even as women, as a gender, we're just different in the way that we kind of navigate, and how we're a little different in terms of being thoughtful.
Right.
So just context around what happens. Like right now, we just had the debate last night, and it's a prime example of not being able to really listen to each other. These two, men just going at it and just trying, like, it was just
All the
not, no one was,
bravado and ego.
yeah, it was all that ego and bravado. Like, I don't know what is going on right now. I'm not hearing either one of you. And
Right.
I'm not making, like, if I was coming in and I was undecided, I wouldn't pick either one of you at this point.
Yeah.
It's, hard to even hear what was being said. And I think, as women are a little bit different, even in our responses, probably I would have been nice to see a woman in that situation, how she would have responded. I'm waiting for the next debate, actually, the
I know.
vice president debate, because we have
Yeah.
a woman that's going to be on stage, and I'm interested to see how she's going to handle that situation.
She's gonna know. And as you were talking, the first thing that came to mind is like being able to cut through the noise, right?
Yes.
All that extra bravado. Like, how are you going to cut through the noise? She's gonna know how to cut right through it and make her point.
I'm so excited to see that. Um, so tell me what you're working on now and what you're excited about.
So I am working on an online self-paced course for women in corporate to really um, ditch the overwhelm, right? Let's
Right.
ditch it. And it's going to include all the things that we talked about. So clarity, which is crucial, mindset, setting boundaries, the giving yourself permission, all those things will be included. And I'll also create a community for it. And just really thinking about it, I feel that it's important for women to have that support, just
Yeah.
like what we were talking about.
Yes.
So even though doing the one-on-one coaching with me, it is powerful, and they walk away, ready to just go. But also being able to come back when they need to, right? There can be a community there for that support,
Yes.
and check in. So
That's so when will that be launching, Raphaela?
I'm looking to do this in November.
Yeah.
So stay tuned, stay tuned. I would definitely like to give you the link so you can include it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Or
And are you noticing that women are struggling more in the midst of the pandemic, because a lot of them are probably maybe working from home, and now their children are also there. Do you
oh,
find that there's been a lot more burning out or just feeling overwhelmed that you're seeing?
you're talking about all the way up. A lot of women with so much stress, so much anxiety,
Wow,
right? A lot of
that's surprising.
anxiety. And, something about, it's different when you work from home because you can, and kids at school, husband at work, whatever the case may be. But when everybody's in the house, that's a whole different dynamic. And so not only are you responsible for still leading your team and getting things done, but you're also responsible for making sure your child or the kids are also in tune with their virtual learning, taking care of the household. And so it's been a lot. I get a lot of women who are just really overwhelmed and anxious.
Yes. Yeah, I felt a little bit of that. Luckily, my boys are a lot older, so I don't have to do as much. But man, if I had little kids, I don't know, I probably wouldn't do nothing else but try. It would be a lot for me. So Raphael, I had asked you whether or not there was any thing that you wanted to offer the audience so that they can engage with you. Tell me, you mentioned that you did have an offer you wanted to share with everybody. I want to let you do that.
Oh, okay. So definitely the online course, stay tuned. That's up and coming. If interested, you can email me at info@raphaelabrown.com. And also, my lovely Franca will include the link in the show notes. So, and then the other thing I have is one-on-one coaching. That's the way I effectively work with the women who are in corporate and they're trying to juggle the many hats and trying to figure out, how they can do the work they love while spending time with the people they love and saving some of that love for themselves. So, check me out and let's connect around how I can support you on your journey to get into that place where you need to be.
So Raphaela, where can they connect with you? What's the best place?
I'm on social media. My favorite hangout spots is Instagram. So go to Raphaela Brown on Instagram. My new hangout spot is YouTube. So again,
Yes.
Raphaela Brown YouTube. Come find me over there. Check out some videos I have. And then in addition to, I'm also on Facebook. You can find me at The Catalyst Coach.
Okay, say that again.
The Catalyst Coach on Facebook.
Nice. And of course, you have a website, raphaelabrown.com.
Yes, you can always head over there and shoot me a message, see what's going on. But I would love to stay connected with everyone.
Yes. And we have a little bit of an echo, so I'm going to say that again. Raphaela and I will continue to just support each other. We are once again part of each other's village, and even when we don't see each other as much, I count her as a dear friend. And we've just gone through, my boys were, wow, they were like 6 years younger than they are now, and they're turning 17 tomorrow. So so I mean, it's just amazing that how the time has gone by, and just the growth that you and I have both experienced it in our lives since then.
Oh, I know.
It's pretty amazing, right?
It really is. And I see you as a blessing in my life to have another woman in business. Here we go again.
Yeah.
Support, because we're not it's alone, support and guidance and just being able to talk to whenever needed on this journey. So
Yes. It's so beautiful. And Raphaela, let me brag on you for just a second. One of the wonderful articles she's written was published on the Huffington Post. I think there's an article that you can find from her on Tiny Buddha. She's written some really great articles. She's a great writer in addition to being such a great coach. So you can visit that, maybe Google her, and those articles may come up.
yeah.
I was super stoked. I was stoked when I read those both. Yes, I am a huge supporter of other amazing women. So thank you so much for being on the podcast today. I'm so glad to have had you as a guest, and I'm definitely going to drop all of the information on how to connect with Raphaela in the show notes after this episode. Thanks again for joining us for another episode of Dream and Thrive. We'll see you on the next episode.
Bye,
Bye for now.